This week, the alignment of the moon with the sun and the stars pulls our energy and opens our awareness to three questions. 1, the once-in-a-year new moon of fresh starts in relationships comes this Monday, October the 8th, asking, why do opposites attract? Number 2, we can expect profound insights from your intuitive mind this week as Venus, the goddess of love, retrograde in Scorpio, asks us to question at the deepest level the power and purpose motivating the way we express our sexual desires. And third, in our social conduct, have we normalized abuse, expecting and accepting that the use and abuse of others for purely ego or sexual gratification is a norm? Hi, I'm Judith Royal, archetypal astrologer, and this is your astrology weather forecast for the week of October the 8th through the 14th, 2018. We open with a retrograde Venus in Scorpio, really bringing this energy of heightened sensitivity as well as some hurt feelings about the rather coarse and rude behavior that some people, as we look especially on the headline news and the dominant scene, our political scene, that the use and abuse of power as a way to control and dominate others has been brought to our awareness. Yes, a huge spotlight on this. And many people stepping up with the voice saying, enough. Still that reverberating echo, a beautiful one, from Michelle Obama before the last presidential election. And also this week, our efforts to understand and communicate are going to shift, shifting from just an intellectual debate to our intuition, to an intuitive mind, really capable of understanding on a whole new level what's really going on. Because we're going to get an assist from that messenger planet, Mercury, who is going to, on Tuesday, move into the sign of Scorpio. And yes, Venus will be waiting for him there. And I love the alignment of Mercury catching up with Venus, which he's going to do on October the 15th, because that is pure poetry. But more importantly, it's being able to look and understand world events in your own life as a metaphor, right? Because what's inside of us struggling to be heard, to be understood, the world is an outpicturing of that. So we want to pay attention to the way the archetypes manifest and the way they play out their role on the world stage, because that's simply the macrocosm to the microcosm. And the outpicturing of events is simply the mirroring of what we are projecting from within our own selves. And that's how we come to true wisdom about all of this, and hopefully the ability to emotionally and intellectually be neutral about these events and just be curious. If your moon or sun sign is in air, water, or fire, you're in great shape this week, and you especially have your intuition heightened. We start the week with the moon in the air sign of Libra, and therefore the Libra new moon, both the sun and the moon in Libra. So those of you who are Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, this is really your best time for, spiritual insights, epiphanies, and out clairvoyance. And also, if you are a water sign, especially Scorpio, we have Wednesday and Thursday, the moon in Scorpio. So that would be your lunar birthday. And you in particular would be the one who is digging deeper and experiencing your emotions very, very intensely. So not just Scorpio, but also Cancer and Pisces. Then for Friday and Saturday, we get some fire. So bless you, fire signs, whether that's your moon or your sun. You've been drowned and smothered out for quite a while now. Remember, it's not going to get better until the 1st of November. So take what you can from this Friday and Saturday to boost and have some combustion, creative combustion, from the Sagittarius moon for adventure, creative adventure. Question everything, especially authority, right? And so that's not just true for you, Sagittarius, but also for Leo and also for Aries. Last week I asked the question, are we building bridges or are we building walls? And now this week I think a better question would have been, and so is now, are we crossing those beautiful bridges that we have built? And are we tearing down those walls that we have built around ourselves that cut us off from one another, that blind us, limit our awareness to the presence of love that is all around us? So that's a great fiery Sagittarius question. And that adventure takes us into Sunday until Sunday afternoon, when the moon will move into down-to-earth Capricorn. And then next week we will have again that wonderful trigger from the moon for Sheriff Saturn and powerful Pluto. Lots of transformation coming. And the 14th Sunday is it's a lovely day if you can enjoy the surprises that are going to just bubble up inside you, and the fact that you are really feeling your feet on the ground emotionally, very stable. That's how we are going to end our Sunday, and a great note to begin the next work week. Now let's go back for the week and pick up the main events, especially those 3 questions. So Monday the 8th is the new moon in Libra. So this happens once a year on that axis of Aries Libra, which is the relationship axis. It has in the past sort of represented his needs, her needs, your partner's needs, your needs, in whatever way you want to put that. But now we're spiritually opening to the fact that our partner is really with us. The purpose of that is to support our spiritual journey, period. Not to meet our needs, nor for us to meet their needs, but to decide to be and create a holy relationship in which you join together to contribute love to the world, to help each other download love and extend it to everyone. So Libra would love that, because to Libra that is such peace and balance. And Aries may just have to learn to adjust, because the warrior Aries is very much about his needs is being a leader, let's put it that way, not looking back to see if anyone's with him or not, right? But I think the call for peace is so strong because the contrast with all the violence and the war and the upheaval is also so strong. And then that's how the Holy Spirit teaches us, by that contrast. And we are sure getting a lot of it. And then the second thing that's worth mentioning about this week coming up is Tuesday the 9th, Messenger Mercury moves out of Libra and into Scorpio. And there, he takes our thoughts and our understanding to a much deeper dive. Remember, the sign of Scorpio, more than any other sign, can be high or low. That is, which guide do we choose to follow? So in Scorpio, it can be the highest, it can be the heights of love, the heights of spiritual understanding, or it can be the ego, right? It can be the depths of egomania, of acting for self with no regard to other, etc. So we, of course, are not going to go to those depths, right? Because we choose our guide as love, not fear. But we are then going to see this manifest archetypally on the world stage. So I think that's going to be very interesting. And then Wednesday, the 10th, the moon's in Scorpio, and it is a soulful love that we will all be feeling, along with a couple of interlopers. First, that Mercury is going to, in Scorpio, is going to oppose the god of lightning on Wednesday. So Wednesday is the day for communications ordinarily. It's ruled by Mercury, the sign of communications. And yet, opposing the god of lightning, those communications are going to be very surprising, perhaps coming from the digital world as well, because Uranus rules the digital world. And the surprise may not be to our liking, and I think that because also on that day, we do have the moon with Venus, which is very sweet, but we also have the square that has been building for some time, all this month, the square of Venus and Mars. I think is going to have a soulful and a spiritual resolution, but during the day, that's going to be conflict, such that we get to see and therefore understand and dissolve our need for vengeance. The wrath of the woman scorned, of course, is underneath the ego version of Venus and Scorpio. But also, it lets us see where we are on the bridge that we are building between ego as our guide, between fear, and love as our guide. So, always our choice. For example, last week, on October 5th, the day that Venus went retrograde, I noticed an article, so often those archetypes will show up this way. And it's actually, it's hopeful because it is so truthful. And a very well-respected historian of the Holocaust, his name is Christopher Browning, spoke out, and this was an article from the New York Times saying that he compared our Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's behavior with Paul von Hindenburg, who was the German leader that ultimately set the stage and handed power over to Hitler. Now that sounds like an extreme, but remember, the extremes are good for us right now because we learn by that contrast. And what he's trying to say is that those people now in American political power, some of them are the grave diggers for American democracy. And not that they aren't all getting a lot of help to pull it off, this systematic obstruction of legislation, of nominations, etc., such that we are witnessing what I've and many have been calling the crumbling of the patriarchy is really, he's calling it the slow and quiet breakdown of American democracy. So our eyes and our hearts and our guts, our intuition, are on the world stage, which is, remember, the reflection of your inner stage. We're getting to see through the fog of our collective denial. Well, for example, I did that last week, right? Let me come back to Kermit, the endangered dusky gopher frog, that on that first of this day of the Supreme Court meeting, that was the first case that came up, and I thought that Mother Earth would win. In other words, the endangered species would win. And I really got pulled up in my awareness that I thought, once again, an old belief of mine, that because it's right, it will win. And that is just not what's happening in our world. So I broke denial on that. And I let myself really see the divisiveness along ideological lines that even permeates our Supreme Court. After all, their first day back, and 8 justices couldn't come to some sort of agreement about a 3-inch frog. So I believe we are called Gandhi-like now to an awareness that speaking our voice is wonderful, and we should do that, but let's not be in denial that anytime there is an issue of us against them, them against us, nobody wins. Except for Francis H. Arnold, who last week on October 3rd won the Nobel Prize. And that's the real evolutionary story in all of this. And why? Because it was her attitude that was really the winning factor. So let me tell you, in her voice, as she spoke out throughout her life, here's what she said. There may be people who are skeptical that a woman can do this job as well as a man. And by that, she means biomedical engineering. Okay. And then she says, I am blissfully unaware of such people, and I have been gifted with the ability to ignore them completely. So we may not all win the Nobel Prize, but we can definitely win a prize for peace by practicing love. And everything, remember, is either love or a cry for help for love. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.